welcome to LADYADA.
Hey everybody, welcome to another to talk about some components and some searching.
Yeah, every single week we do Desk of LADYADA. On Wednesday we do Show and Tell, Ask an Engineer. On Wednesday we also do 3D Hangouts. So I have JP's workshop on Thursday. And for Desk of LADYADA we usually show off something cool, some engineering and more, and then we do some great search on the DigiKey site. So LADYADA, what are you going to talk about this week on your desk?
Today I'm going to talk about the lowly but important 10K thru-hole resistor, because I was thinking about when we started Adafruit, or I started Adafruit, and we were selling kits. And these kits were thru-hole kits because I didn't have a pick and place. And so, I'd sell a Minty Boost kit or a Mini POV kit, and it would come with a bunch of components, including the circuit board, chips, resistors, and capacitors. So I had to source a lot of resistors and get them inexpensively enough that I could make these kits and start Adafruit. So I remember at the time, I had to move from just picking up resistors at the local Radio Shack to how do I buy 1,000 of these? And, even then, searching online or searching in a catalog for these parts was not easy. Sometimes it's actually harder to find the most common parts. It's a common, request people have is they say, all I want is a bunch of resistors, but there's just too many options. It's like I just want something simple and common. And so I thought we'd kind of maybe do a throwback episode to Le Resistor.
All right.
How's that sound?
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, let me show it on the overhead so people know what I'm talking about, because this is pretty small. So this is your common, thru-hole resistor. It's 5%. It's got a gold band. You're not really going to see thru-hole resistors are usually not going to be 0.1%, and they're not going to be 10%. The 10%, we don't really make those anymore because we can make resistors at least 5% or better. 1% are fairly common. But I happen to like the 5% because I have the color codes memorized. So I look at this and I'm like, oh, brown, black, orange, I know it's 10K, or, yellow, purple, red, I know it's 4.7K. Here's a little bag of resistors that came in a kit with, I think these are 5.1s. Yeah, 5.1K. And you get 5 of them. But yeah, let's say you need a couple thousand of these resistors because you're doing a kit or you're doing an assembly. That's where, we sell resistors, but if you want to buy 1,000, I'll tell people you don't want to buy them from Adafruit at 25 parts per bag. You want to get them from DigiKey because you can get them for like a quarter of a cent a piece. So let's go to the computer and we'll start this search. And I'll show you some tips and tricks.
It's now time for the great search at DigiKey. This is where LADYADA goes to the DigiKey site.
That's right.
And starts doing some great searching.
Those some nice graphics that we got there.
Yeah, this is approved. And
yes.
We wanted to make sure that we show this is the search engine that a lot of people email and say, hey, LADYADA, I'm learning engineering, but what I really need to learn is how to search and find the parts I'm looking for.
Yeah,
this is what we do.
If you're an engineer, when you're in school, they give you a kit with all these resistors, but again, eventually you need a bunch. So let's just search for a resistor. Why not? And you'll see there's
a million results.
There's literally 1.2 million.
A million results.
Right.
You gotta.
I gotta pare that down.
A little less.
But I want to show the different kinds. So this is interesting. So starting from, we're going to ignore these are not related, but they're specialized resistors. These might be ultra high temperature or ultra large or ultra small resistors. Unlikely you'll look at those. Adjustable power resistors. These are also not commonly used by engineers unless you're doing a power project. You need a resistor that can go from 1 ohm to 5 ohms and is like a powerful resistor. It's basically a potentiometer, or a rheostat, but it's very large. There's the rotary potentiometers and rheostats. That's the common twisty knob potentiometers you're probably familiar with. I might cover these some other time, but you can see a large range of different potentiometers from, the low-cost panel mount to through-hole type, and they can get pretty expensive, like 10-turn or 25-turn resistors. Some of these are 5-watt potentiometers. There's the trimmer pots. So these are little surface mount pick-and-place potentiometers, usually used with a small screwdriver to adjust a little bit of gain or an offset for an op-amp, say, or an analog circuit. Sometimes we use these to, if you want to adjust the amplitude of a amplifier or something, and you're not going to be adjusting it a lot. These are a little sensitive, so you don't want to twist them tons. And then we're going to get to the actual resistors, because potentiometers, they're technically resistors, but they're really potentiometers. Resistor kits, and I have one here. These are kind of like a cool idea. These resistor kits, they'll come with 20 to 100 different values, and they'll give you 10 to 50 a piece. And it's not a bad idea to have one of these, because oftentimes, yes, you have the exact value, 10K or 20K, but then once in a while you're like, shoot, I really need to tweak this feedback resistor or this gain, and a potentiometer is too rough. I want a closer value. So these kits can be a nice alternative. So, they come usually in books or packs. There's through-hole type. So let me see if they have wire wound carbon film. So carbon film is what's usually referred to as the rounded resistors. So you can get 156 different values, 5 pieces, of half-watt resistors for about $40. So Yageo has a kit, and this looks like fun. This is a big kit. These are 100 per. That's kind of nice. So I do, in addition to getting whatever kits you need, having a resistor kit, I have one, and it has come in very handy. Okay, so but what we're really looking for is through-hole resistors. Chassis mount resistors, usually that's power resistors, very big resistors for RF or power electronics. So here we still have 500,000 different options. So remember, we want the 10K resistors. So let's start the way I always start with active. Most of them are active. And something that's kind of neat here is that you can kind of go through here and pick out the values. You can also do a range. Maybe you're like, I want something between 9 and 12 kiloohms. So that's milliohms, ohms, kiloohms, megaohms, and gigaohms. But I want kiloohms. So then I can have it's a little easier to scroll through, because I'm only selecting from within the values that are close enough. One reason why you might want to do a range, for example, I was looking for a 400, I did some calculation for a feedback resistor for an amplifier, and I needed 450 kiloohms. Well, 450 kiloohms does not exist. Not every resistor value exists, because the 5% resistor values go up by 5%. There's 5% between each one, and so there's going to be values in between that don't exist. That's why you'll never see an 8.9 kiloohm 5% resistor. You'll find 4.7K, 5.1K, 5.6K, but the values in between you're not going to find. So that's why you might want to kind of get a range and then pick your tolerance. Now, for through-hole resistors, again, you're going to see, you could get 0.1%, you can get much 0.001%, although I don't know how expensive that could possibly be. But the lower the tolerance, i.e. the more precise the value is, close as possible to the value you're purchasing, you're going to pay more, because they have to make all these resistors and they pick out the ones that are within that tolerance, and not all of them are going to make it. So that means that you kind of want to go with the loosest tolerance you're willing to live with. In this case, we're talking about the simple 10K resistor, standard pull-up. I'm very happy with 5%. I will note these are not in numerical order, so watch out. This goes from 0.01, but then it goes 1, 10 to 23. So just watch out for that. So standard 5%. They come in a couple different packagings. I will go with bulk packaging, which means loose, not on tape. Some people like tape if you're, cutting a strip of resistors, but the bulk ones just means you can pick them out of the box very easily. So let's get bulk. And then I'm going to actually say, okay, 10 kilo ohms. And yeah, see, not every value is available here. You'll see that it jumps up, from 10 to basically 11. There's nothing in between for 5% values. And then you can choose the composition. Metal film is usually more precise. They have different thermal properties. At this point, what you're going to be looking at is temperature coefficient. That is how much the resistance changes over temperature. Everything is a temperature sensor, just some are better temperature sensors than others. And the size and dimensions. But let's start looking at the photos to get a sense of what we have to choose here. So one thing to watch out for is these are all obviously renderings. This is not a photograph of an actual resistor. Compared to other great searches where there's actually usually a photo or often there was a photo of the actual object. This is a rendering. So you have to look at the dimensions and the wattage to get a sense of how big it is. Now, if you want a very tiny resistor, it's going to be lower wattage. Can't absorb as much heat and, emit as much heat to stay within the wattage range because it's a smaller. The bigger it is, the more heat it can absorb and emit. In this case, most through-hole resistors are quarter watt. When you're dealing with large values like 10K, you're probably not going to need anything larger than that. Now you might be wondering, well, if it really doesn't matter, why don't I go down to 1/8 watt or smaller? And I'll tell you why is sometimes they're actually hard to read the values because the body of the resistor is so small. So let's go to power wattage, and I'm going to pick 1/4 watt. Maybe one day we'll do a power resistor search, and in which case we'll go with a higher wattage. And then, we can do in stock or normally stocking. So let's do in stock, and this is the resistor. And this is not surprising. The Yagya resistors are what I've purchased a lot of. 10 kilo ohm, 1/4 watt, 5% axial. Looks like this, and they've got a ton in stock. You can also get these in tape and box and tape and reel. Again, those come on brown tape, so you can cut strips off. But for most purposes, this is what most people want. Okay, and now I'm going to go for super bonus round special LADYADA trick. So you just found your 10 kilo ohm resistor, and you're like, okay, that took me like a minute or two. But now you need like a 2.2K resistor as well. Now you're going to start your search all over again? Not necessarily, because if you look at the DigiKey part number, it has the value within it, 10K, Q, BK, and D. So my trick would be, I don't actually search for it over and over again because, there's a million things to have to pare down. Instead, put in the part number, 10K, and then you can adjust this. So let's say I want 47K. Type in 47 instead of 10K, hit return, and boom, you're there. I just saved you like 2 minutes. That could be a valuable 2 minutes. You never know what you might have done in those 2 minutes. Ditto, let's say you want, 2.2K. In this case, I believe it's 2K2. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 2.2K. Yeah. You search for 2.2K, QBK, and 85,000 stock, lots available. And this is what I would do when I was making kits, is I would just type in the value for each one, and then it would pop up, and then I would just order any quantity. Another thing you'll notice, they'll sell you one resistor, but you're not going to get good pricing at one. One resistor is going to be 10 cents a piece, which is pretty expensive. However, if you're willing to pick up, like at least 100, it'll get down to 2 cents or 3 cents. So you can pick up like 1,000 resistors for $11 or 250 resistors for $5. And that's really great if you're, again, doing kits and you want to have good pricing. If you're picking up a tape and reel, which is, this on a reel, the pricing is really low because they're like, oh, we're just going to give you a box. It's less than a cent. You have to buy 5,000, but it's less than a cent. So keep that in mind. If you have to buy a quantity, it might be worth it just to get a full box instead of individual ones and counting them out. And that is my great search for today.
All right.
Hope you learned a lot.
All right.
All right. Are there any questions, comments? Things you want to search for?
Folks were commenting how they really like the search series. So that's
Great.
nice. This is a powerful tip that I cannot resist.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's our Disc of LADYADA and our great search for this Sunday.
Yes, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
Short but sweet. We'll be back with more engineering in this week. We have a lot of new products in the store coming, and I've been super swamped.
We are about to film a bunch of coming soons and top secrets and more, so stay tuned to all the socials, and you'll see those coming out this
Like,
week.
share, and subscribe, as they say. I will have a wonderful week, everybody, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
All right. Bye-bye.